Hello everyone. Welcome to Story Hub channel. Discover real stories of wife betrayals, shocking twists and turns and their secrets. Hit the subscribe button and get to our story. This weekend kicked off just like any other. Saturday morning, I woke up a little later than usual and gave my wife, who I've been married to for 17 years, a good morning kiss. She mumbled, "Mike, let me sleep. I can't catch a break with you at night or in the morning, and the girls are probably up already." I chuckled and said, "You're right, they're old enough to handle themselves. They won't bother us." I rolled out of bed, slipped on my robe, and made my way to the shower. On the way, I caught some noise coming from Emily's room. It sounded like Megan was trying to drag her out of bed. I decided to let them sort it out on their own. After getting myself ready, I headed to the kitchen. My daughters were already at the table, looking a bit impatient. Emily asked, "Are we having breakfast today?" "We still have to go to school, you know." I replied, "Why?" "You're on winter break, remember? You're going to Grandma's today." Emily looked puzzled and said, "And what about you? Aren't you on vacation too? Isn't it a long weekend? I thought it was Mom's idea." I suggested, "Why don't you make your own breakfast?" Megan chimed in, "We could, but Mom won't let us. She thinks we'd ruin the pans and burn everything. The only thing we're allowed to make is scrambled eggs." I said, "How about oatmeal or semolina porridge like they have in England?" Emily grinned. "Oatmeal, please, sir." I smiled back. "Oatmeal it is, miss. We'll save the oats for the horses, and make sure there aren't any lumps in the semolina. Now, go wash your face and brush your teeth. Breakfast will be ready in 15 minutes. I quickly whipped up breakfast for my girls. Meanwhile, Olivia emerged from the bedroom and headed to the bathroom. The girls sat down to eat, and Olivia soon returned, her hair neatly combed. I glanced at my wife, dressed in one of my shirts, and despite everything, she still had a way of captivating me. Her beauty was undeniable, even if everyone had their own idea of what's beautiful. I loved her, but there was an undeniable tension between us. Olivia sat down at the table and said to the girls, "Finish your meal and get ready. Daddy's taking you to Grandma's." Emily protested, "Mom, you promised we'd go to the ski resort for a week. We've already packed our gear and we were so excited to spend New Year's Eve together." Olivia replied, "Girls, we don't always get what we want. We'll hit the slopes during spring break when there's no snow left, or maybe we'll go to Palmer. They have snow in the mountains year-round. Now finish up and get ready." I wasn't exactly thrilled about sending the kids to my mother-in-law's, especially after Olivia's fib about our trip. I could sense that Olivia and I were drifting apart. And it all started when Mark, the new commercial director at her job, came into the picture. Olivia had known Mark from their university days, but she never mentioned him to me. This bothered me, but I held on to the hope that she'd remain faithful. I considered confronting Mark, but figured it would only worsen things between Olivia and me. Instead, I kept a close eye on her. As far as I knew, nothing serious had happened between them, just some light flirting. When Olivia sent the kids to her parents today, it felt like a sign that something was going to go down over this long New Year's weekend. I was ready for this conversation and had even prepared a recorder to capture it. As things began to unfold, I stayed calm. My main concern was shielding my daughters from any fallout. I knew a tough conversation was coming, thanks to a heads-up from Lisa. Olivia had no clue that I had gone to the bathroom, switched on the recorder, and slipped it into my pocket before coming back to the kitchen. Olivia was quiet for a moment. Then she glanced at me with a brief smile that quickly faded, her expression turning serious as she said, "Mike, we need to talk." The tone in her voice made it clear that this conversation was not going to be pleasant. I did my best to stay composed and asked, "Is something wrong?" Olivia replied, "Nothing's wrong. I love you, Mike. I've loved you for years. You've been an incredible husband and father. I want to grow old with you. Maybe even die on the same day." "So what's standing in our way?" I asked. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've come to believe that we need a break from our marriage. We should explore our own paths and experiences separately. That way, when we come back together, we'll have a broader perspective to strengthen our relationship." "How long do you think this break should last? A month? A year?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. No, just a 2-day holiday weekend, she replied calmly. Is that why the kids are going to your mom's instead of the ski resort? I asked. Yes, I've already arranged everything with my mom, she confirmed. So what you're really telling me is that you and your lover cooked up this whole sociological theory just to get my approval for a weekend fling. The words felt unreal as they left my mouth. Olivia's suggestion had knocked the wind out of me. Her audacity was shocking, though not entirely unexpected, considering my growing suspicions. Still, hearing it out loud stung deeply. Mike, I really don't know what you're talking about. Can you clarify? She asked, feigning innocence. I have no idea who you think my lover is. You might not like it, but you'll see that nothing will change between us when we get back together. I'll make sure you're happy. Yes, it's selfish, but I have my reasons. I want to grow old with you. You may not understand now, but eventually, you will, and you'll thank me. My patience was wearing thin. You don't even know who I'm talking about, do you? It's Mark, your new commercial director. You had a passionate affair with him back in college. He ended it when he got bored of you, and then you quickly moved on to me. Not a word about him becoming your boss. And you're wrong if you think nothing will change. What do you mean by that? She asked, still playing dumb. Everything's already changing. Your attitude towards me, towards our kids. It's all different now, I said, my voice rising with frustration. Mike, I love you, and you're imagining things. I still love you. I don't know how you'll explain our divorce to your parents or to Emily and Megan. What will they think? She replied, her tone shifting to one of concern. Divorce? We're not getting divorced, but I can see right through this sociological nonsense you and Mark came up with, I said, trying to keep my temper in check. You're overcomplicating things. You'll take the girls, and when you get back, we'll figure this out. We're not resolving anything. I'm leaving, I stated firmly. But you can't do this to me, she protested, her voice trembling. I can, and I will. My decision to divorce wasn't planned. But now it's made, I declared. But I said I was calling it off, she tried to reason. Yes, you did. Then you mentioned we'd discuss it further when I got back. So you enjoy your free weekend while I drive the girls around. You can consult with Mark, I snapped back. Emily walked into the kitchen, interrupting our tense conversation. Daddy, we're ready to go. I'll be ready in 5 minutes, I said. I quickly got dressed, grabbed my laptop, and slung my backpack over my shoulder. Without another word to Olivia, I headed downstairs, started the car, waited for it to warm up, and then the girls climbed in. We drove off, and I saw Olivia watching us from the window, looking confused. As we merged onto the main road, the car was silent. Finally, Emily spoke up. Daddy, Grandma lives on the other side of the road. I know, sweetheart, but you were promised a trip to the ski lodge, and that's exactly where we're headed now. We'll figure out the details once we get there, I reassured her. Dad, are you and Mom getting a divorce? Emily asked, her voice quivering with uncertainty. Why would you think that? I asked, doing my best to keep my tone even. We overheard you both arguing in the kitchen today. We're on your side, aren't we, Megan? Emily said, her voice filled with concern. I'm on Dad's side too, but where are we going to live? Megan added, echoing her sister's worry. We'll stay at my mom's place for now. I'll drop you off at school so you can grab your books and clothes. But for now, let's not worry about that and focus on enjoying our vacation. You both deserve it, I said, trying to sound as reassuring as possible. Back at the house, Olivia watched us drive away. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed David, who answered almost immediately. David, it's Olivia. We've got a problem. Don't worry, I'm alone. Has your husband left yet? He's leaving tonight. He just went to the store. He's probably on his way back. What's going on? David asked. He didn't react the way we expected. He didn't believe me, she replied, sounding troubled. Who are you talking about? He asked, clearly confused. My husband. I proposed the 2-day separation we discussed, she explained. Did he go along with it? He knows about our past and our connection from college. He's talking about getting a divorce, she said, her voice tinged with anxiety. That's not good. This could turn into a major scandal. Word will get around the office and Mia will definitely hear about it, David said, sounding concerned. I'm not interested in divorcing my wife. You've never wanted that either, have you? So what do we do now? Is your husband back yet? No, he still needs to drop the girls off at my parents' and then return. I'm sure he'll come home and he's not leaving, Olivia replied. Tell him there's no temporary separation, David advised. I did. He didn't buy it. He thought I'd managed to talk him into it when he got back. When will he be here? David asked. It'll take him 3 or 4 hours, Olivia answered. That's our plan then. Tell him you've decided against the separation. We need to give him time to cool down and make sure this doesn't leak to our workplace. It'll complicate everything, David concluded. Olivia ended the call, feeling a bit more secure with David's support. She pondered the situation and decided to set the table without bothering to cook. She got dressed and headed out to a cafe, ordering some takeout. She also picked up a bottle of wine and placed a corkscrew beside it, setting out 2 glasses. She warmed up the appetizers she'd bought in the living room, turned on the TV, and settled into an armchair. She wondered if her brief affair with an old flame was worth the risk to her family. Convincing her husband was going to be incredibly difficult, and she wasn't sure how much he knew about her relationship with David. Revealing that her former classmate had become her boss was probably a mistake, but Mike would have found out eventually. David had disappeared from her life, only to reappear when she learned he would be their commercial director. She felt an unexpected attraction. It was just a fling, nothing more. Their first private conversation confirmed it. David had told her, Olivia, I've always liked you, but I can't risk ruining my family. I'm not ready to cut off contact with you, but it has to stay very discreet. You're married too, as far as I know. Life had shown her the folly of her decision. Their discussions in the study seemed to have a logical foundation, but they had underestimated something. 4 hours had passed, and Mike still hadn't returned. He should have been back by now. Olivia called her mom, and after a short delay, her mother answered, Hi, dear. How are you doing? It's winter, and it gets dark early. We're just sitting here with Grandpa having a bit of a disagreement. What's the disagreement about? Olivia asked. Oh, the usual. He wanted a drink and I refused, but he found where I hid the bottle. And you? How are you holding up? When are you bringing the girls over to visit? Her mother replied. Olivia knew from the conversation that I hadn't arrived yet. After the call, Olivia dialed my parents. My dad, a retired military officer, answered the phone. Olivia, what's going on? You're looking for Mike and the kids, aren't you? He gave us a heads up about this. Yes, I thought I'd check in and see how you're doing, Olivia said, trying to keep her voice steady. Don't try to fool me. Mike called and told us you two were getting a divorce, he replied bluntly. That's ridiculous. We had a misunderstanding, but we're not getting a divorce over something like that, Olivia protested. It's not just about you two. It involves some guy from your work, my dad said. He told me about it this morning during breakfast. You suggested a 2-day separation. When he didn't agree, you said you'd cancel it but talk it over later. Is that what happened? Number Mike said he's had enough and has decided on a divorce. He's gone to sort things out and won't be back. He assumed you were still at home waiting for him, my dad explained. That's not true. Mike knows about the man you're seeing. When I suggested he drive up there and sort it out in person, he said, Dad, I'm not interested. I have daughters, and they're on my side. Where did he go? Olivia asked, her voice filled with concern. He didn't tell us. We were so upset we didn't even ask. If he calls, tell him he misunderstood everything. I did my best for our family, but now I see that I did something wrong. My wife and I have been together for ages, and even in the toughest times, we never thought of separation. Who put these absurd ideas in your head? If you love another man, why torment everyone? If you're ready for a lover, leave your husband and children. Don't ruin life for yourself and others. Mike will get over it, and maybe he'll be better off. He's not old or unattractive, and the girls will be fine with him. There will be no divorce, Olivia said, her voice trembling. That's your opinion. I know my son, and it seems like you don't really know him. I just need to explain everything to him, and he'll realize he was wrong. He'll call, and I'll tell him, Olivia said before ending the call. Next, Olivia called David, but a woman answered. Hello? Excuse me, I'm looking for David. Who are you? My name is Olivia. We work together. Oh, I know who you are. Let me tell you, I kicked him out. Don't call him. He doesn't have a phone anymore. Is something wrong? Olivia asked, now confused. You don't know? I've moved to 2 different cities because of this cheater and womanizer. I'm not leaving this new house, the woman continued. Where's David? Olivia asked, her voice shaky. How should I know? I kicked him out. Maybe he's at your place. He doesn't know where I live. Why would he be at my place? He knows everything, including your address. He works with you, but he wasn't the only one involved with you. He had plans to meet all of you while I was on vacation. Meanwhile, I was driving with my daughters to a ski resort out of town. I knew some of the staff there, including John, a former classmate who had become the director. I called John and explained the situation. He agreed to accommodate us for the winter vacation. Mike, anything for you. A house for 3 people is a dream come true. Great. I've got a company waiver and 3 cabins available. I'll reserve one for you. Perfect. But I have a favor to ask. If someone calls, don't confirm that I'm here with my daughters at the resort. Understood. I'll reserve the cabin for you. When are you arriving? We're about an hour and a half away. The roads are icy, so I have to take it slow. Got it. I'll set the table in your cabin at the entrance. Just tell them you're here to see John, and they'll point you in the right direction. An hour and a half later, we reached the ski lodge gates. We informed the gatekeeper that we were there to meet John, and he directed us where to go. There was a sheltered parking lot near the lodge, so I parked the car there. We gathered our belongings and headed into the house. John was already waiting for us at the table. Hurry up, everything on the table is getting cold, he said with a grin as we walked in. You're always in such a rush. Let my girls freshen up, wash their hands, and explore a bit, I replied, smiling. Emily and Megan grabbed their things and headed upstairs. They had already changed into their tracksuits and were pleased with the room. My daughters were growing up so fast. Where's Olivia? Why didn't she come along? John asked. That's a whole other story. I'll fill you in later. But first, let's toast to our reunion, I said, raising my glass. You're eager, yet taking your time, John joked. We clinked glasses and started reminiscing, though we were occasionally interrupted by my daughter's questions. Eventually, Megan asked John about other entertainment options at the ski lodge. Right now there's a dance party in the hall, John replied. We didn't bring anything to wear for dancing, Megan said, sounding a bit concerned. There's no dress code. You can come as you are, John assured her. So, no specific dress rules. Can we go too? Emily asked, her eyes lighting up. Of course. I'll call one of my staff, and they'll take you there, John said. A few minutes later, a young employee arrived to escort Emily and Megan. After they left, John turned to me and asked, Why did you decide to get a divorce? What happened? Remember when I first started dating Olivia? There were rumors she was seeing someone else. Yeah, I remember hearing those rumors, but nothing concrete ever surfaced. Well, this guy from out of town shows up and ends up becoming the commercial director at Olivia's workplace. They started this emotional affair, which I didn't catch on to at first. He's got a wife, Mia, who decided to divorce him and spilled the whole story to me. Today, everything came to a head. She cheated on you? Not physically, but they decided that for this long weekend, we shouldn't vacation together, supposedly to strengthen our marriage as we grow older. I've always been skeptical of sociologists. Sociology is for those who can't fully grasp society, conducting research, and then trying to impose so-called laws they've discovered, which often turn out to be nonsense, I said. You've got a point, John agreed. So what's your plan now? When I talked to her, it hit me that staying together would be unbearable. So I've decided on a divorce, I said, feeling a sense of relief. What's next for you? John asked. I need to figure out the next steps. A group of lawyers is coming here tomorrow. They have an office in town. I'll ask them for help, I replied. Come on, let's pour ourselves another drink. Emily and Megan returned from the dance around 11 p.m. A staff member from the ski center had been attentive and escorted them back to the lodge. I prepared a late supper for the girls, and we shared a meal together before they headed off to their rooms. I sat on my bed, trying to hold back tears. It had been a tough day, and I couldn't shake the memories of everything Olivia had done. I turned on the tape recorder and listened to the recording, reaffirming that my decision was the right one given the circumstances. Olivia hadn't waited for me and had no idea where I might have taken our daughters. But I remembered that I had promised the kids a trip to the ski lodge, so that's where we went. I suspected that Olivia had made other plans. She powered on the computer I usually used, but her extensive search yielded nothing. She couldn't find any information about the ski lodges I had been researching. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a knock on my door. "Come in," I called out, and my daughters burst into the room, full of energy and excitement. "Daddy, wake up! Let's have breakfast and then hit the slopes for some skiing. After that, we can go ice skating. There's an ice rink here," they exclaimed. "Where are we having breakfast?" I asked. "At the cafe. Wash up and I'll be ready in 5 minutes," I replied. We headed to the cafe for breakfast. Afterward, we changed into our skiing gear, rented skis, and took the lift up the mountain. We spent the entire morning skiing until lunchtime. In the afternoon, after changing out of our ski gear, we returned to the cafe. There, we ran into John and his wife. John mentioned that the company he had discussed had arrived, including a divorce specialist. "Meet me in my office today. I've got a computer and printer. Everything you'll need. I'll take your girls, my wife, and her sister to the ice rink tonight if you're okay with that. We'll meet back at my place. The girls want to go dancing again. We'll join them, dance, and then head back to our cabin. And don't forget, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We need to get ready for the festivities." Everything was falling into place. After lunch, John and I headed to his office. A lawyer soon arrived, and we discussed my situation. Anna, the lawyer, walked me through the legal landscape, which I wasn't very familiar with. She advised me not to rush into any decisions about the apartment. "Remember, your girls will grow up and start families of their own. They'll need their own space. If you move into the apartment with them now, things could get complicated if there's a new husband in the picture down the road," she said. "But I can't imagine living in the same apartment as her," I admitted. "Try to think it through and consider suggesting a partition," Anna recommended. "First, let your wife know that you'll be filing for divorce in court." "When will the paperwork be ready?" I asked. "No rush. The courts have holiday weekends too. I've got my laptop with me. I'll prepare everything, and we can print it later. Also, you can contact me at my office, or hire me to represent you in court," she offered. "I like the idea of having you represent me," I agreed. We celebrated New Year's with John, his wife, her sister, and a group of lawyers in the ski lodge's large hall. Other vacationers joined in, and it was a lively night filled with music, fun, and dancing. In the early hours of the morning, I returned to the cabin with my daughters, who were exhausted and ready for sleep. After tucking them in, I rejoined the group. When the main hall festivities wound down, we gathered in my cabin, sat around the fireplace, and eventually retired to our respective cabins. The following days went as planned, with more skiing, ice skating, and dancing in the evenings. One evening, John asked me, "How are you holding up?" "You know, despite all the daytime fun, there were nights when I shed a lot of tears. But today, I feel more prepared for what's ahead than ever before," I replied. The day came when we had to pack up for our return journey. I had a conversation with my daughters, emphasizing the importance of not losing our apartment. We made a stop at the mall for groceries and returned home as darkness fell. Emily and Megan immediately started rearranging their rooms, with Megan moving her things into Emily's room. Just then, Olivia walked in. "What are you two doing?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "We're turning Megan's room into Dad's room, and we're going to share one room," Megan explained. "That's what Dad said," Emily added. Olivia still seemed unhappy. Once the girls finished rearranging their rooms, they got ready for school. I started preparing dinner and breakfast for the next morning. Olivia came into the kitchen, trying to start a conversation. "I won't allow any of your boyfriends in the house. You can meet up with them anywhere else, but just so you know, I'm filing for divorce," I said firmly. She then went into the girls' room and asked if they wanted to talk to her. The girls made it clear that they hadn't missed her. "Dad told us to stay out of his way for the rest of the week," Emily said. Olivia looked hurt, but I remained resolute. Emily and Megan lived separately from Olivia, locking the doors to the rooms we occupied. I cooked for myself and my daughters, deliberately ignoring Olivia's presence. On Friday evening, a young woman delivered a registered letter to Olivia. It was a summons, with a statement of claim attached. After reading the contents, Olivia rushed into the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. "Mike, why do you want a divorce?" "I thought we could work things out," she pleaded. Talk to a lawyer and discuss it with them, I replied coldly. Olivia mentioned David's disappearance, hoping it might sway me. Maybe you should reach out to him for advice, I suggested. I've moved on, Mike. I have no one, Olivia insisted, her voice breaking. The girls had already eaten and retreated to their room without a word to Olivia. In her desperation, she continued to plead with me, declaring her love for me and our daughters, but my resolve remained unshaken. The path forward was clear, and there was no turning back. What does your love have to do with any of this? I snapped, barely containing my frustration. I did love you, but that was before I found out about your affair with David, your old boyfriend, someone you never even mentioned to me. I realized it was foolish to keep loving you. You wanted to talk? Fine, let's talk. Tell me about your so-called weekend. What were you planning? How did you intend to spend it? It's been a while since I heard your wonderful sociological theories from your buddy. So enlighten me. How did you spend your weekend? Did you have fun? I'm glad your buddy disappeared once more. Let's hear all about it. I finished dinner and started clearing the table. Hearing the clatter of dishes, Emily came into the kitchen and offered to help. I gently refused. Go upstairs and tidy your room. I'll handle the dishes and take care of ironing your clothes. They're already dry, I said. Olivia, feeling ignored and realizing that I didn't want to talk to her, retreated to her room in tears. After washing the dishes and turning off the lights, I went to my room. I noticed a pile of laundry that needed ironing. Before going to bed, I went to the kitchen and found Olivia sitting alone in the dark. When she saw me, she started talking. I was dating David back in university, and then he suddenly disappeared. No one pressured me into it. Very few people knew we were dating, and hardly anyone knew he broke up with me out of the blue. He reappeared at our workplace, and we started interacting for work reasons. One day, he asked me to lunch. At first, it was just lunch, then something changed. He made it clear that there should be no suspicious encounters, and everything had to be carefully planned to avoid our spouses finding out. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it was a fling with no future. This temporary separation was meant to be our first and only date. So you concocted the story to justify your actions. I didn't realize it would go this far, and I agreed to David's proposal. Can't you see he was just using you? Are you really that naive? No, it's not that. It's just been a long time since you've complimented me on my looks, my clothes, or even my hair. But don't try to shift the blame onto me. Just because I haven't been showering you with compliments every day doesn't justify having an affair. Are you saying you're willing to cheat on me with anyone who gives you a few flattering words? In the days that followed, I focused on preparing for a meeting with child welfare officials. According to my lawyer, Anna, their opinion would carry significant weight in court, although the children's views would also be considered. There was a lot to manage in a short amount of time. At night, when I was alone, sleep eluded me. My mind was consumed by thoughts of love and betrayal. Olivia's betrayal left me with a painful mix of anger and heartache. All I wanted now was a divorce, even though it seemed like a daunting process. I had lost all trust in Olivia, and our marriage was beyond repair. I also had to consider the impact on the children, who had distanced themselves from their mother. During one conversation, Olivia argued that for the sake of the children, we should stay married and try to make our marriage work. My response was firm. Our children need to know that their parents love them unconditionally. They aren't responsible for what happened. They're old enough to form their own opinions about us, and you need to understand that I haven't said anything negative about you to them. They formed their opinions based on what they overheard when you told me about our so-called temporary separation for the long weekend, I explained. I'm proud of our kids, I continued. They quickly understood what was going on between us and your lover. They talked it over among themselves and made their decisions carefully. When we left, they were deeply upset with you. Do the girls hate me? Olivia asked, her voice trembling. For someone with a degree in sociology, you seem surprisingly unaware, I replied. Yes, they know their mother was unfaithful. And yes, they are angry with you because of it. You can try to mend your relationship with them, but adolescence is a time of transition. They're going through significant changes both physically and emotionally. It's hard to predict how you'll be able to connect with them. In the time leading up to the court appearance, there were numerous pleas and appeals from Olivia. Eventually, we faced each other in the courtroom for a preliminary session. The court granted us time to try and resolve our differences. When the court-mandated reconciliation period ended, I suggested that Olivia sign a child custody agreement as part of our divorce. The agreement stipulated that the girls would live with me. However, Olivia was unwavering in her stance. "I won't sign any agreement," she declared. "Then I'll have to take this matter to court," I warned. "The court will listen to me, talk to the girls, and make a decision. It's unlikely to be in your favor." "You can't be so sure. Court decisions can be appealed," she retorted. "Good luck with that," I replied, my patience wearing thin. "Mike, I know I made a terrible mistake. I realize now how wrong I was. Please understand that I love you and I'll never see David again," she pleaded. "So you've decided to replace him with someone else?" I asked, my tone cold. "That's your choice. Don't pin this on me. You're the sociologist. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lot to handle. If you decide to sign the agreement, it should be done in front of a notary, to give it legal strength," I muttered, knowing the court would likely side with me. As the court's deadline for reconciliation expired, Olivia made desperate attempts to reconnect with our daughters, but they wanted nothing to do with her. After school, the girls attended their computer science classes and then came home with me. After a light snack, they settled down to do their homework in my room while I prepared dinner and breakfast for the next day. One day, child welfare authorities visited. They spoke with the girls, examined their room, and compiled a report. We arrived at the court hearing on time, accompanied by our lawyer. Olivia entered the courtroom alone, without legal representation, though she had sought advice from counseling and friends experienced in divorce, fully aware of the irreparable state of our marriage. During the trial, she responded to the court's questions with brief, simple answers, mostly yes or no. At the conclusion of the trial, Olivia declared that she was relinquishing her share of the apartment to our daughters and provided a deed of gift. The judge noted that she had already taken her personal belongings and that the remainder would be removed within a week. Olivia requested a recess to sign the child support agreement I had proposed. After the break, she continued, "I am willing to voluntarily pay child support to Mike, because I understand the court might not rule in my favor. To ensure transparency, I suggested that Olivia open separate accounts for each of our daughters and transfer the funds there. They'll need that money when they come of age," I said. The judge clarified that alimony and dividing the apartment were not part of the initial claim, so the court would not address them. The issues of child support and divorce would be decided separately. The court took a brief recess to deliberate. In the end, Olivia and I left the courthouse officially divorced. The girls, who had been excused from the courtroom earlier, were sitting on a bench near a bus stop, enjoying ice cream despite the cold. When I saw them, I asked, "Girls, what are you doing? It's freezing out here." "We brought the ice cream home and thought it'd be fine to have in the winter. It can even soothe a sore throat," they explained. I smiled at their logic and asked, "Why did you choose 19 as the age for accessing the money?" "That's what we decided," they responded. Olivia honored her promise and left the apartment, moving in with her parents to care for her ailing mother. I agreed to let her visit the girls once a week, although Emily and Megan were hesitant about it. During these visits, Olivia spent time with them at our home. I spent a long time on my own. On New Year's Eve, I took a vacation with my grown daughters at a ski resort, often in the company of John's wife's sister, Zoe. We started developing a relationship, but I wasn't in a rush to make any commitments. My main focus remained on my daughters, whom I continued to care for and guide. Zoe didn't have children of her own, but she bonded well with Emily and Megan, despite some initial jealousy from the girls. I treated Olivia with respect, allowing her to visit our daughters and keeping the lines of communication open. However, we were no longer a couple or even friends. Emily and Megan grew up without causing any trouble. I surrounded them with love and care, and I saw Zoe's presence as something that brought our family closer together. Olivia had a tough year as her parents passed away one after the other. I helped with the funerals, but our shared grief didn't mend our relationship. Olivia lived independently, with our daughters as her main social circle. Eventually, she started dating a lonely widower who lived nearby. David, her former partner, never returned to town. His whereabouts remained unknown, even to his ex-wife Mia, who had remarried shortly after their divorce. Now, as I reflect on everything, I can't help but wonder if Olivia ever asked herself, am I to blame for my ex-husband's infidelity? Let me keep this brief. I met my ex-husband when I was in a vulnerable state. I had aerophobia and had been bound by it for nearly 3 years. Over time, we fell in love, and I began to recover. When I got better, life felt incredible, because I had lost the joy of living for 4 long years. I was eager to try new things and explore like a kid on Christmas morning. My enthusiasm for life was contagious. However, after several years of marriage, especially the last 2, I sank into a deep depression with thoughts of suicide. I lost the motivation to do household chores or take care of myself. I stopped exercising, ate to cope with stress, and spent most of my time at home. I didn't have hobbies or many friends, and my anxiety worsened to the point where I couldn't travel without medication. All I wonder now is, did I drive him to cheat by becoming this unhappy version of myself? Did I fail to be the person he wanted me to be?